Who else but the King of the Skies was going to get a Zenith first? Rathalos is as much of a poster boy for the series as Pikachu to Pokemon or 4 Loko to vehicular manslaughter, so of course he's going to get souped up and spat out into the world of Mesoporta. Teased in the new Arrival trailer for the Z update alongside the likes of Zenith Espinasse and Zenith Hermitor, it was one of the first Zenith species introduced, and would unfortunately show some age as time went on, as we'll see. As this is the first episode, typically I'm expecting to do a rundown of what made the base species tick, and any unique frontier attacks or animations that would be relevant here. But with normal and even hardcore Silver Rathalos, the only one really worth talking about is this lovely combo from jumping back into spraying fireballs in a cone at you. The rest is pretty standard for what we've come to expect of Rathalos in the early days. So with that out of the way, we're going to be covering the visuals first. As befitting for a variation species, there's a few differences in the looks here to note. Firstly, you'll note a lighter, almost cream coloration to the scales, and a few dorsal spikes that have increased in size. You'll also note that this aerodynamic frill of sorts that frames Rathalos' face has been given some bulk. And then there's the main attraction. As we know, all Zenith monsters have their designs focus be one single overdeveloped body part, and it's very clear that for our pilot-in-chief here, it's his wings. Molten veins, a burning bright red and orange, and on the lower end of the webbing itself, further wicked hooked spikes, leading to an all-around impressive wingspan. Now if that wasn't ostentatious enough, a couple of hits in during the fight, Rathalos would tend to fly into a rage pretty quickly, at which point the wings, they set on fire, and the real fight begins. This empowered state is how you're going to be experiencing the majority of your personalised dick grilling from Lost here, and where all the fun moves exist, so we'll move on to the little extra flavours that were added for this specific monster. Fights-wise, your big enemy here is the hateful Zenith Fireblight that will be packaged not just with various fireball attacks, but melee strikes as well, so 55 fire resistance is a must. As a reminder, if hit with Zenith Fireblight, your health not only drains fairly fast, but your maximum health also decreases to the same degree. It's terrifying. What makes this worse is at the time of launch, Zenith Fireblight was actually significantly weaker than later updates, so things would only get worse if you were there when the thing dropped. You've also got to be very mindful of your range to Rathalos, as you'll be seeing a lot of excess fire pillars burst up around the guy during some of the larger attacks that you wouldn't expect to hit you. Examples of this can be seen on this pirouette attack, or this little number he stole from the Black Flying Wyvern, so just be careful when you're at medium range. In terms of ancillary effects, the only one you'll have to prepare for in this instance is Zenith Wind Pressure, but strangely there's really only one instance that you'll see this. Put simply, instead of landing slowly after a high aerial attack when in rage mode, Zenith Rathalos will slam down and wind press you, and if I'm honest, since this throws you across the map and he'll usually just taunt after landing in such a way, I'm not really sure what it's for, but it's there to watch out for, I guess. Once you break the wings, however, you completely neuter Rathalos. He can no longer enter this superheated state, leaves no additional fire explosions behind after melee attacks, and even the larger AoEs get reduced. The biggest change, much with other Zeniths however, is the speed. The dude slows to a complete crawl to the point where it can be pretty disarming adjusting your response timing to the slow lane, so sometimes you'll just get blindsided. We move on now to discuss what changes about Zenith Rathalos as he increases in quest level. As a reminder, all Zenith monsters have 4 quests. The first unlocks at G rank 200, the second at 400, the third at 600 and the final at 800. Of course things like health and damage will increase, however you will also see some rough AI changes as well as brand new moves introduced. In some cases you may not see any changes and it will just be a stat adjustment, although you might be fighting the monster in a different area. So now that we're all familiar with Zeniths adjusting themselves as the levels increase, from my observation, Lost is one of those ones that doesn't really appear to change that much. There are 3 big moves: a jump back fire spit, a landing into an explosion, and this AoE stolen from unknown, but they all make appearances from G rank 200 all the way to 800. You'll sometimes get a couple of less taunts after attacks, and of course more health and damage as we discussed, but the only real big thing of note is a massive attack in G rank 800. This suction tornado here can be very scary, owing to the fact that if you get caught in the lingering fire damage that pulls you in, it deals damage over time. But when you see the suction begin, you've got more than enough time to either sheath or just start a weapon sprint. Even heavy weapons can outrun this. From there, all you got to make sure to do is roll after the landing explosion, and you're pretty much good to go. It looks intimidating, but is less threatening once you learn it. In summary, all things considered, being one of the first Zeniths to make an appearance, the Frontier team weren't really pushing their luck as much as they would later with Zenith Rathalos, and he's a fairly tame fight. It's a testament really, if anything, to the strength of Zenith Fireblight that sort of carry these monsters, especially Rathalos. Still, it can and will put you down if you don't respect the king, and was a pretty realistic step into a classification of monster that will turn out to be quite the opposite in future. Zenith Rathalos, a first tentative step into a new class of beast. This concludes the first entry in the Zenith Encyclopedia. Normally I think the episodes will come out about weekly, so I hope this has been enjoyable and useful and you look forward to the next episode. I'll see you in the next report. Cera out.